Maybe be a little more online. Oh no, we said, Mr. McNamara, you're here live, so you can come on down. Good evening, Mr. McNamara.
Good evening, all. Colin, McNamara, 47 Grandview Street. Congratulations, everyone. The pandemic's over, according to Joe Biden. So it's appropriate that tonight we start to talk about carving up the ARPA funding. I love the transparency of this board of directors because last month Secretary Burgeon moved 17 different line items off the agenda regarding the appropriations for the ARPA funding. And tonight, instead of talking about those line items one by one, we'll be wrapping them up into one individual resolution for a yay or nay vote. That's 8F and 12F. This one was $8 million, and the public's got no public comment on it. And the only people that do talk about it are people that are on the committees. Circling back to the pandemic, Manchester Public Schools is still masking Head Start preschoolers. These are like 2, 3, 4-year-old kids, and they statistically have zero risk for COVID. And it's already been shown that it's harmful to their emotional health and ability to learn. And it's absolutely disgusting that you guys allow this to happen and no one says anything about it. But it's all because we're still in a continued state of emergency 31 months later. Thanks to the governor and every single Manchester rep has voted to continue it. I think we're on six continuations. Got to keep that federal fund money coming. The transportation policy update. It's discriminatory, flat out. I went down there to drop off some leftover tag cell items with my van and my trailer that I use for work. And they told me that I wasn't allowed to use that trailer or the van because I have a business. And even though I've only used the transfer station like 3 times in the last 10 years, they told me I'd have to go on the scale for $200 per ton commercial fee. This is stuff for my house. I'm asking for some discretion instead of discrimination. And I don't think that's too much to ask. You guys have the addresses of people. You can look up how many times they come. Number 4, the purchase of the Tong building, 12F, $1.75 million. I called this sweetheart deal 8 months ago at the February meeting. And this building's been a blight on Main Street for decades, and now we're offering over $1 million from the appraised value. I think we should ask the state attorney general to investigate this deal for price gouging, but I wouldn't hold your breath because his parents own the building. And maybe the Manchester Dems can buy it, and keep the campaign headquarters there permanently. It's a gross misallocation of funds, and it says you want to reward negligent property owners. Lastly, I identified a neighborhood that's in need of environmental justice. Take a ride up Gardner Street and survey the destruction of many people's front yards in order to install a mixed-use path. Now, only one single family on Gardner Street spoke out in favor of this path, while dozens of Gardner Street owners spoke against it, and their cries were met with deaf ears from you guys and the Planning and Zoning Commission. Maybe it's the town's right to develop an easement along the road, but it definitely doesn't make it right. And it's drastically impairing the people's property values while destroying their front yards. So nice work. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Mr. McNamara. Yes, Mr. Stringfellow, would you like to speak? Yes. Mr. McNamara.
Colin McNamara, 47 Grandview Street. B1, I was just looking for some clarification. Maybe the town manager can talk to us about why Manchester's Head Start funding, or just education funding for Manchester, is also tied at the hip to Enfield. I noticed this in a few different meetings, like the funds come here, but then we allocate them to Enfield. And that's just a curiosity of mine. B2, Head Start Innovation or Innovative Enhancement Grant, $66 grand. It was fun to listen to Mr. Geary's presentation about the Head Start, and it was enlightening that there's no consistency in the protocols regarding COVID and the mask between other preschools and Head Start. If you're in a Head Start program, you may be low income, so they can take advantage of those kids and mask them, which is disgusting again. And it was just illustrative because he's really a coward, and all of you guys are that don't speak about this, because he says that, yeah, it is detrimentally harming our kids, but, it's $1 million. You guys just sucked up over like $15 million in ESSER funding. The large, I think it's even more than that, 25 million. I don't know, maybe someone can tell me, straighten me out. But it's the largest grant from the federal government in town history, and the Department of Public Education for the state got the largest influx of federal money in history. And you're like, oh, we just need some more money from these guys. You're doing these kids irreparable harm, and you should be ashamed of yourselves.
Mr. McNamara, please focus on B. Items in B, please. That's what the public hearing is about.
Thanks. Hey, B7, Special Education Activities Grant, $10,000 for people with IEPs. Um, I don't know if you guys watch any of the Board of Ed meetings, but like people that are paraeducators and IEP, people that assist students with IEPs, we're here at multiple meetings complaining about how they were underfunded and they weren't given the proper respect and the proper compensation considering all the hoops that jump through the pandemic. And we're allocating 10 grand for people with IEPs. When one item down, B8, Bar Foundation grant, I mean, I guess that's maybe a private grant, I don't know, $500,000 to go to college. College now is like a ridiculous scam. And when I went to UConn, it's like 12 grand a year. Now I think it's 28 or 30 for in-state, all because of the FAFSA, federal student loan, approves those loans to people, and they got you on the hook. You can't get rid of that debt. 500 grand compared to 10 grand, it's insulting. And I hope the people that work with students with IEPs aren't watching this because they'll probably start crying. I guess I'll. Colin, McNamara, 47 Grandview Street.
Welcome back.
Okay. Item 3, Town Clerk Elections Grant to be funded by the State of Connecticut. Secretary of State's Office for the purpose of mailing and processing absentee ballots and related 2022 election expenses. $16,000 or $15,947. I'm hoping some of this money could be used to kind of clear up the confusion. I don't know if you guys remember last election. The Manchester Dems with Mike Farina and Mike Pohl sent out a bunch of ballots with partially completed, like wet signatures, it was called. And the Secretary of State called them on it and said that it was in violation of election law. But there was just kind of a shoulder shrug and nobody got held accountable, which I don't think is appropriate here, considering the ramifications of an election. I'm pretty sure like a couple of the elections in town, the winner was only decided by a certain number of votes. I think they shopped these partially completed ballots around a bunch of old folks' homes, with people that might not have been all there. That was charming. So hopefully the 16 grand could go toward maybe educating these guys and getting them on the straight and narrow. That'd be sweet. Number 6, Department of Leisure, Family and Rec, $4,610 from Spruce Street, Northwest Park, Farmers Markets account funded by vendors' fees in the Office of Neighborhoods and Family Market Nights. I think you guys do a good job of the farmers markets. I've gone to a few of them, and they're a lot of fun for the kids and the families. I really like what's going on at Spruce Street with the garden, and I'd like to see it expanded year after year. And I'm really pushing we should turn Broad Street into a whole town-wide farm with orchards and pull water out of the river and have all these youth activities down there. And we're headed to this time of food insecurity, they're calling it, because of all these supply chain shortages. So that would be nice. And I'll leave it there for those items. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other members? I don't see any board members. Item 8A.
To balance.
Mr. McNamara, I think you said you wanted to come back for 8C.
McNamara, 47 Grandview Street. $135,000 for purchase of books to be funded by the Driver's Trust Fund balance. So I have friends that work in the schools, and I've been looking at dumpster now and again. And I noticed there's like thousands of books and dumpsters at schools over the summer, at Manchester schools. I don't know if this is money that's going toward the Martini or the public library system or the schools. It's not clear. But I know the library is putting on a used book sale at Whiten, maybe this weekend, soon. And I was just curious, is there any mechanism for the schools to put on a used book sale? My kids are homeschooled. Maybe that would be a benefit if we could pick up some kids' books that are used. Or is there a stipulation in the contracts you guys have for the people that supply your books that you're not allowed to resell them and they just end up in the dumpster? It doesn't seem very sustainable, just thousands of books in the dumpster, or a good use of our resources in the long run. The other thing is, because a lot of these books are getting deep 6 into the dumpsters, we're replacing them with digital titles, which is harder for parents to police what their kids are reading. Maybe police isn't the right word, but be aware of what their kids are reading. If it's buried in their tablet, it's going to be less likely to be seen by a parent than if it's on their nightstand. And I wonder why the push for digital titles when there's many studies that show that one kid shouldn't be having access to tablets until they're like 8 or 9. I believe like Steve Jobs doesn't even allow his kids, at the time when he was alive, didn't allow his kids to have tablets until they're like 14. I think the same holds true for Bill Gates. But having kids look at screens, I don't know, you go to the grocery store, you see these kids on the tablet, they're like 2, 3 years old, they're just staring at it, and they're completely engaged. What's it doing to their brain activity or their attention span in the long run? So hopefully this 135 grand will go to purchase some good books and not digital titles that are physically accessible. And I'd like to see some clarification on if they're for the public school system or the library. Thanks.
Thank you for bringing it back to 8C. I believe it's for the library. Correct. So,
Colin, McNamara, 47 Grandview Street. Appropriation American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA funding, $7,725,000. You sent according to the approval of the board resolution listed under new business, item 12A, that's the street. It's funny, like last meeting I was here, I think I was the only member of the public to attend. I was on the Zoom, I wasn't feeling that hot. But tonight it's just me and Tom. So nobody that was at the meeting, we had a hell of a crowd tonight. Nobody at the meeting is aware of what was on this September's agenda for all these allocations. And there's 17 line items, and some of them are $1 million, $750,000. They're good chunks of change. It's just indicative of the fact that you guys don't want transparency or any discussion on these appropriations. That you'd lump them all into one resolution to pass, whole mass. I don't know what you're so afraid of. Or why we can't have a discussion on where the money's going. This is the American Rescue Plan funding. You guys know that they spent more money in the last 2 years to battle COVID than they did in the entire World War II. And that they've printed more dollars than the rest of the U.S. histories combined. That's not sustainable. And we better spend this money quick because it's not going to be worth much for very long. So I guess maybe it's good that you bundle it all together so you don't have a lot of pushback. I don't know. But yeah, we're headed for some turbulent times, and I guess we're like spending this money like crack addicts spend money just left and right. So it should be fun to see. And it's almost midnight, and you're going to vote on it. You're going to approve it, obviously, because you're not really care about transparency. It's just something you give lip service to. But good luck with the vote, and I look forward to it. Thanks.
thank you. Okay. Board members.